Your 2025 NBA champions are the Oklahoma City Thunder. The NBA will have a different look next year. We'll give you the details coming up. In baseball, the Chicago Cubs stumbled over the Seattle Mariners, losing 2 out of 3 at the friendly confines, while the White Sox did something that they haven't done since 2019, win a series in Toronto. Yay! The Bulls have the number 12 pick in this week's NBA draft. What will they do with it? Well, I guess we'll give you our response. We'll have our sports potpourri segment, and time permitting, we'll have old school TV Monday. That and a whole lot more as the Monday Extravaganza edition starts right now. Welcome to this Monday Extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. A very hot one at that. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're the unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not 2 hour extravaganza we call the Sports Talk Radio Show. You can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. The Ken will get the up on screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to build and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to the live gang that's checking us out right now at 12:22 p.m. Central Standard Time on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. But much love to the replay gang that's also checking us out right now, also on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. Don't you ever forget our motto, whether we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
We provide you with the best here on Second City Sports, of course, as the Pacers lose to the Thunder. The Thunder now NBA champions. We'll talk about that. And the NBA draft commences this week on Wednesday. Okay, well, I guess we'll tell you what the Bulls might do. We'll see. Also, a big trade involving KD and a sports potpourri segment from a little sports media news. From quarterback is back for another season. Excuse me. And also, Tom Brady has another title under his belt. We'll talk about that and so much more. And, of course, a special edition of Old School TV Monday. You guys probably will remember this show. Now, of course, first, Sid, if you are hot out there, I hope you guys are taking it easy because it's going to be like almost like 90, sort of like 94 degrees right now here in Chicago. It's going to be like near 100. So if you guys, stay hydrated, be careful and such. So, yeah, so we'll, keep you cool.
Check on your neighbors, check on the elderly, and check on your pets.
Yep, absolutely. The cooling centers open all over the city, so I'm sure there's information about that, so you can Google that. But first, let's talk a little MLB from the weekend as the Cubs lose a tough series to Seattle, and I guess it was a tough series to swallow. I mean, that last game yesterday was just brutal, 14-6. The Mariners outslugged the Cubs. Donovan Solano had 2 home runs, and of course, Cal Raleigh had a good series there as well. He hit like 3 home runs during the series, and of course, there's a reason why, as I said on Twitter X, that he is the leader in the clubhouse for AL MVP. The Cubs, I mean, the pitching just didn't. It was. I wouldn't say it was bad, but it wasn't good this weekend. Now, good news is that Shota Imanaga did have a great rehab start down in Arizona, so hopefully he'll be back sometime later this week or even next week. But Sid, what do you think about that Cubs Mariners series?
I was there on Saturday, and it was something to behold. Hold there, and yes, it happened to be where the Cubs won the lone game of that series, but that's neither here or there from my personal view. But looking at it from the outside looking in, the Seattle Mariners came in there, took advantage of the Cubs' mistakes, and blasted 10 home runs in that series. You mentioned Cal Riley, the first player to hit 30 home runs before the All Star break from a switch hitter's position. Randy Rosarena did his thing. The Seattle Mariners pitching staff wasn't that great either, but their offense carried them through. Now, I said to you on Friday, I was interested to see how Cade Horton would do, being my first time watching him up in person. He wasn't bad, but that wind definitely affected both teams throughout this past weekend series. Ian Happ, this is Saturday's game that I was at. Ian Happ had an error. P. Crow Armstrong had two errors in center field, but he did make it up with a home run later on in that sixth inning for that win last Saturday. So the Cubs, we know they have the offense, but that pitching has to adjust to the weather conditions in Wrigley Field because, as we all know, once it gets hot like it is right now, the wind starts blowing out. If you leave a mistake up there, hitters will take advantage of it. That's what happened this past weekend.
Yeah, I think that was a lot of things. And the Cubs were able to kind of outslug them on Saturday, the game, the irony of the game we went to. But the Cubs also had a couple of big in that game on yesterday. So, that might have played a little bit of a part there of the Mariners being able to, kind of take control of the game and the series. But yeah, I mean, look, it's gonna be interesting to see, especially like the pitch is really. Look, we talked about our buddy Mike Burr from MC5 Chicago on Friday. They need pitching. It's just Ray didn't have his best start. Gave up 7 earned runs yesterday. Including four home runs, so that didn't help his cause either. Excuse me. So yeah, so am I? It is like the end all be all. It's like the end of the world for the Cubs, no, because they gotta shake it off because they got a big series coming up starting tonight in St. Louis. But this is sort of like take some notes here, and hopefully this will give Jim Horde the green light to kind of go after starting pitching, because there is one pitcher that we'll talk about after the break that they won't be able to pursue. Even if we're pursuing them, they can't get them now. So we'll get to that after the break. But yeah, let me just see what happens here in this series against St. Louis.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena is sitting here with you on this Monday extravaganza edition, talking about the Cubs and the Mariners series. We'll get to the White Sox after this time out. You mentioned about the St. When you mentioned about the St. Louis series, we'll preview that right now. But first, your pitching matchups for the series, which starts tonight down at the Show Me State, is Ben Brown versus Matthew Liberatore. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we will have Jamie Centeno versus Eric Fetty. Wednesday's matchup will have Matthew Boyd against Andrew Palante, and then Thursday's matchup will have rookie starter Cade Horton. He will face off against Sonny Gray. LaKeena, Milwaukee's 3.5 back. St. Louis is 4.5 back. I know that you can make an argument of who has the most which team has the most importance in this series. Let me rephrase that. Which series is the most important to the Cubs or the Cardinals? Obviously, it's the Cardinals because, as I mentioned, they're 4.5 back. I think this is more important series for the Cubs because you want to reestablish that dominance over St. Louis and send the message to the rest of the division that, hey, you got to come through us if you want to go through the playoffs. And you just mentioned Shota Imanaga. It looks like he's going to be coming back soon within the next week or two. Ben Brown, as we mentioned, LaKeena, we thought that he was turning the corner. His last start against Philadelphia last Thursday, he stunk it up. Colin Ray, as you mentioned yesterday, the starting pitcher, he stunk it up. I think that this series, especially tonight in Ben Brown's case, is going to determine his future with the team. Will he be sent back down or will he be relegated to the bullpen? It all depends on how he goes out there tonight for the Chicago Cubs. The other starting pitchers, as I mentioned, will be going in this series. They're going to be important as well. So I think that this series is more important for the Cubs just to establish that dominance and get into the psyche of St. Louis to say, hey, we know that you're still above 500 as we get toward the end of June. We split a bit with Milwaukee last week, but if the Cubs can at least realistically split this series or take 3 out of 4, you send a message to the Cardinals in the locker room and say, hey, you got to come through us. You want to win the Central Division this year.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that. I think if you could just split the series, I would say win 3 out of 4 would be ideal, but we know it's going to be difficult. So
Mhm.
if you can split this 4-gamer with St. Louis, I think you could consider a successful series. Because after that, you got to go at Houston. That's not going to be an easy series either. Then you got to face Cleveland next week, and of course you have St. Louis again at a Wrigley next weekend, going to the long 4th of July weekend. Then you finish up against Minnesota and New York, the Yankees, coming up before the All-Star break. So if you can realistically, if you could get to maybe just above 500, if you can, I guess we'll say win, split your series with St. Louis, win 2 out of 3 against Houston, win 2 out of 3 against Cleveland, win 2 out of 3 against St. Louis at Wrigley, win 2 out of 3 against Minnesota, and ideally win 2. We'll see where the Yankees are. We'll talk about the Yankees after the break. But if you win 2 out of 3 and just win your series, each of those series go into the break, you can get a little momentum.
I want to ask you a question, one last question about the Cubs before we break for the bottom of the hour. With Shota Imanaga coming back soon, if you were sitting in Craig Counsell's seat, would you go to a 6-man rotation, or would you send Colin Ray or Ben Brown down to the minors?
Well, I would say if you can go with 6-person rotation, I think you could do that. I think 6-man might be good. That way you can kind of see if either Ray or Brown can hang on, into the stretch run where you go into the second half of the season. So I think for right now, do a 6-man thing first, and then see maybe as you get into August and September when you go into that stretch. Hopefully the division will be wrapped up by then, but in case it's not, you'll be able to see kind of like which one of those two, either Brown or Horton or Ray, which one of them that you can probably count on to in that stretch run to kind of seal that division.
Yeah, as we said throughout this all season, we're saying it now. We're going to keep saying it until the July 31st trade deadline. I know the bullpen did not look great for the Cubs, but if I'm a Cubs fan, I'm still confident in that bullpen. But it's clear to me now that Jed Hoyer needs a frontline starting pitcher. He has until July 31st to get that deal done. So we'll see what happens on that front. On the flip side, we'll talk about the White Sox. They haven't done this since 2019, win the series north of the border. And their announcer did something daring that none of us will ever do. We'll get into the rest of Major League Baseball, the best and worst from this past weekend, as we experience home run derby throughout the country. We'll discuss that and a whole lot more as you listen to Second City Sports, the Monday Extravaganza edition. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. Don't move a muscle.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. On Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago. And on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Time out. How are you feeling right now? Happy? Excited? Angry? Overwhelmed? One of the best things you can do for your mind health is to name what you're feeling. It can sharpen your awareness and help you talk about your feelings with someone you trust. Here are 3 questions to ask yourself. Where are your thoughts right now? In the past, the present, the future? Do you notice any sensations in your body? Is your heart beating fast? Is there a flutter in your stomach? Or are you fully relaxed? What do you need right now? Time with others? Time to yourself? Remember, there's power in this awareness. So find ways to identify what you're feeling today.
At a time when the news seems as subjective as the partisan politics dividing this country, independent professional journalism has become a resource people need to get the honest and accurate information for their lives. That's why I created JGordonReports.com. As a born and raised Chicagoan, I know this city better than anyone. So my investigative stories are all original, and they'll go deeper to expose the truth by using information obtained from public information databases and in-depth interviews with the movers and shakers. My future stories will introduce you to people and businesses who are changing the world, not just Chicago. My missing person stories will spotlight those who you don't hear about in the mainstream media who are often overlooked. If you want to hear my personal views on things around the world, check out my blog site, which is based off of factual information on my life experiences. There's also past episodes of my weekly sports podcast show, What's Up Cuz, that I host with my real-life cousin, Lance Erdman. So if you're looking for all this information and more, check out jcoydenreports.com and follow me on Twitter at jcoyden.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Monday extravaganza edition of Locked and Loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my King McGee on the Twitter, X, using it, IG.
As we dive into some White Sox talking the best and worst from the past weekend in Major League Baseball, if you have any questions or comments regarding that subject for this break, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. We'll get the up on the screen for you.
Meanwhile, the White Sox did something they have not done since 2019. They won a series in Toronto after coming back from 4-1 from 2-1 down, I should say. Miguel Vargas hit the tie-breaking home run in the eighth as the Sox rallied to beat the Blue Jays. They to their credit, though, they drew a lot of walks. That's been a problem for the Blue Jays this year, especially their bullpen. That's why the Blues are kind of kind of where they are right now in the AL East. Now, Hauser had a solid outing, only gave up 2 runs and 4 strikeouts. But yeah, it was really the bats that kind of helped. Like I said, they drew a lot of walks, so they were able to kind of get back from that. Slater scored, a fielder error by Hoffman, and then Vargas, of course, hit that go-ahead double to left. So to kind of drive in both Taylor and Madrov, and that's how they ended up winning that series. They do face the Diamondbacks, back at G-rate, starting tonight. So we'll see. But like I said, we've been talking for like the last month. I mean, we're now in the fun bad portion of this rebuild with the White Sox. So
I will say this: I have nothing personal against this young man. I know we heard a lot of hype about this player, but Miguel Vargas, as you mentioned, he started to turn around. He had a slow start to the month of June, but he's starting to pick it up. He had a great month of May. Started off slowly a couple weeks ago, but he's picked it up here over the last week and a half or so. I think he's your lone representative for the White Sox in next month's All-Star game. Me personally, I want Shane Smith in there. He'll start tonight, but we'll get to him in just a second. But the White Sox, we mentioned they're dealing with even more injuries. Davis Martin was supposed to start Friday's game, but he has right forearm tightness, and so he's on the IL. Grant Taylor, maybe their future closer. I'm not sure. He started 1 inning in that game on Friday, but Tyler Alexander pitched 4 innings and actually got the win on Friday. Luis Robert Jr., hopefully he's starting to come around. If you GM Chris Getz, you want him to continue on this hot power streak so you can get more for him at the July 31st trade deadline. But you mentioned some of the other young guys outside of Vargas with Chase Madrop, who wasn't in the lineup Saturday, but he was in there yesterday. He collected a hit. Kyle Teal and Edgar Carroll, both of them not going to be catches for the future, so you got to get at bats for both of those guys. I'm interested to see what manager Real Vilmo does. He does with both those guys going for you. You want to see both those guys in the lineup every day. And Lenyn Sosa and Josh Rojas, who's going to be a future second baseman, who's going to be your future third baseman. I want to see those guys get as much time at the plate as possible as well. But you mentioned with Adrian House yesterday. I know he celebrated a new birth of his new child, him and his wife. So this was his first start since the birth of his new child. As you mentioned, not the world's greatest stats, but he did pitch well enough for the Sox to be in. And you mentioned the Sox took advantage of the Blue Jays' mistakes in that 8th inning to come out with that 4-2 win yesterday to salvage your series.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, something they had not done since 2019. Like I said, we're in the kind of the fun bad part of it. So they're facing an Arizona team that we'll talk about that in a little bit here with the Diamondbacks. Now your pitching matchups, you got Shane Smith against Rodriguez, and then you've got Sean Burke against Nelson. This is for tomorrow, and of course they haven't. Venables has not officially announced the third star yet for this series, but he will face Zach Gallen. So good luck, I guess, with that one. I know he's been getting it together a little bit. I know he had a rough start in the year, Gallen did, but he has gotten better in his last 3 or 4 starts. So again, I guess like I said, if you're the White Sox, you want to try to perhaps maybe because it gets even harder for the Sox after this. They got San Francisco. We'll talk about them in a minute. Of course, they got to go at the Dodgers and at Colorado. Then they have Toronto and Cleveland as the 7-game homestand to finish up the first half of the season. So again, you want to kind of get kind of like you can bed. That's all you can ask for if you're the White Sox. Just get better, and like I said, we're in the fun and bad part of this rebuild. So.
And shout out to White Sox TV voice John Schriffen for standing alone. And of course, he had help, of course, but standing alone at the CN Tower next to, I'm still going to call it Sky Dome. I'm still going to call it Sky Dome, not that corporate name. And of course, he had help as usual with the people holding roping them together. He said that he was dared to do it by Gordon Beckham. He did it yesterday. It was shown on the White Sox Countdown Live pregame show. If you have Comcast like I do, you could watch the pre and post game shows along with the actual game broadcast. I thought it was pretty cool. I know most folks won't get to do that. I know bungee jumping was the main thing back in the 90s and early 2000s, but I know this comes close to it. He accomplished a bucket list and he took the dare, and he was rewarded positively for it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of people. I think that's like a thing that they do up there in Toronto. So he's just doing something that's very popular up there, especially this time of year since the weather is when it's summer and the weather is warm up there. So you always see a lot of folks do that when it's cold up in Toronto. But he said it was an exhilarating experience. I know. We'll see if Beckham does. I think he did on a dare from Beckham. So we'll see if he can if Beckham pays it back. I guess.
Yeah. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. City LaKeena here with you on this Monday extravaganza edition. Now, as we turn the page to the rest of baseball, the best and worst from this past weekend, LaKeena. Let's start in the NL East. The Atlanta Braves lose 2 out of 3 to the Miami Marlins. It's the time to back up the truck. But first, I want to talk about this series for a minute. The battle of the division leaders were on display in the city of brotherly love over the weekend. The Mets lose 2 out of 3 to the Philadelphia Phillies. Juan Soto exploded on Saturday along with that Mets offense, but it failed to show up last night on Sunday Night Baseball, and Friday was the same result as well. Philadelphia, we talked about their bullpen problems. They still need to fix that between now and the trade deadline, but their offense, which saved them this past weekend in their series against the Mets, take it 2 out of 3.
Yeah, there were some small home runs that were hit in that Saturday game. But if you guys saw that game on Fox, the big Fox network, and of course including Lindor and Soto among others. But it was really the Phillies. They kind of especially last night's game. Luzardo had a great outing. He only had 6 2/3. He only had 2 hits. Schwarber and Edmundo Sosa for the Phillies. They helped them seal that series. And look, the Mets have been, they did win 3 out of 4 against the Marlins, so they kind of got them back going. And 3 out of 4, especially the Phillies are trying to get back into it as well. Of course, they've won, I think, like 10 of their last 12 games since they had their little hiccups earlier in the month. But they're starting to kind of get together. Like, so they're still going to have to get their bullpen together, too. And as on the flip side, though, for the Mets, you get swept by the Braves and the Rays, and you lose 2 out of 3. So is it panic time for the Mets? I wouldn't say that, but it's not looking good for them right now. So hopefully they can get it going now. I want to talk about the Braves for a second, because remember when I said before the break that there was a pitcher out there that the Cubs and other teams. Well, Chris Sale unfortunately fractured his ribs, so he's going to be on the IL. So it looks like he's not going to be available for trade. So if the Cubs and other teams did have him on the list as a potential piece trying to get before the trade deadline at the end of next month, that's not going to happen. So the Braves, I think you don't want to say you don't want to give up because, like I said, they did sweep the Mets, but at the same time, though, you lose 2 out of 3 to the Marlins, you may have to kind of back up the brakes truck a little bit here.
Yes, I told you a couple weeks ago when a certain sports show in Chicago brought up that trade Caden Horn versus Chris Sale. I told you you're not going to give up the whole farm for a rental.
Nope.
He's a very good pitcher, but when you have those miles on those tires and the age starts to creep up on you, things like this happens. Unfortunately, we wish Chris Sale the best in his injury recovery, but you don't give up a farm for a 2-month rental for an injury-prone pitcher. Now, going back to Philadelphia. I know this guy's batting average is not something to rave about, but would you put Kyle Schwarber as a top 3, top 5 candidate for NL MVP? 249 batting average overall, 24 home runs, 55 RBI with OPS of 920. Do you think Kyle Schwarber deserves to be in the first grouping for NL MVP next to Pete Alonso, Shohei Ohtani, and Pete Armstrong?
Yeah, I think so. I think he definitely I know he had a little bit of a slump, especially during that losing streak that Philly had, but he is starting to get it back going a little. Like I said, he had a home run last night, so yeah, I think he's definitely in that first page. Like I said, we'll get to Shohei in a second with the Dodgers, but yeah, we'll get our voters getting like Shohei fatigued, if you will. So yeah, I think he's definitely earned Schwarber. I think he's definitely earned a spot in that discussion with that first tier for NL MVP.
Okay. Speaking of Shohei Ohtani, he had his second start of the season yesterday. He only pitched 1 inning, struck out 2 batters as the Washington Nationals go down to the Los Angeles Dodgers 13-7, losing that series 2-1 after the Nationals beat the Dodgers on Saturday. The Dodgers came back yesterday to win the series finale 13-7. Max Muncy had 2 home runs as well. LaKeena, we talked about the injuries to the Dodgers pitching staff, but their offense is starting to come around. Mookie Betts is starting to come around. Freddie Freeman, who I mentioned is a top candidate for NL MVP, he's starting to hit as well. Shohei Ohtani still working his way back to starting pitcher, but his bat has been doing the talking. Is it time to fear the Dodgers, or are you going to give them to at least the All-Star break to see where they're at?
Yeah, Muncy has 7 RBIs yesterday, and I think he should definitely the bats good, but they gotta get healthy in their pitching. They're not gonna be able to. What one of the World Series last year was their pitching in the end. So I think they're gonna have to address that. The guys gotta get healthy. It looks like they are starting to get healthy. I know Kershaw. I know he didn't have his best outing, but he's starting to kind of get it going a little bit. So incidentally though, in that Saturday game. There were another 7 solo home runs out there in Los Angeles for that game between the Dodgers and the Nationals. So yeah, there's a theme here, folks, with all this hot weather going all over the country. It looks like the bats have been hot all this weekend. So I think the Dodgers. Like I said, I'll wait to the All-Star break, but I think they are still trying to get control of that division now. The Giants, though, especially with that Rafael Devers trade, they did win 2 out of 3 after losing the opener of that series, and Devers really wasn't. I don't want to say he wasn't a big factor, but he did homer against his former team. Ironically, in that Saturday game. But it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of get it going there now. Like I said, the pitching is still an issue for me with the Giants, so I'm not. I think they'll definitely stay with the Dodgers for a little bit, but as far as them winning, they may have to make another move for the trade deadline if we could get some starting pitching, but we'll see.
I think they need bullpen help too. Their bullpen, both teams, Boston and the Giants, but the Giants. Speaking on the Giants for a minute, their bullpen really got knocked around this weekend. And if it was, I saw a little bit of the game yesterday, which the Giants' offense did do its job. But that Friday game, that bullpen got knocked around, despite the Red Sox booting the ball all around. So I think the Giants will need some bullpen help. Should they stay in this race, which I think they will until the trade deadline.
The Padres, they won 2 out of 3 against the Royals. We'll talk about the Royals and their collapse in a second now. Jose Iglesias, he drove into both the tying and the game-winning home runs to seal that series for the Padres. So again, the Padres are interesting because you thought that maybe they can stay with the Dodgers, but they're going to lose their series to the Dodgers early last week, losing 3 out of 4, and now they've won. They went 2 out of 3 against Kansas City. So what do you think about the Padres' chances?
As long as they can get some strong starting pitching performances with the likes of Dylan Cease. I know he pitched in that series last weekend against Kansas City. If they can get some consistent starting pitching, I think they'll be okay. Fernando Tatis Jr. We thought he was going to miss some time after he get hit on the hand in last Thursday's series finale at Los Angeles. He had a big series last weekend against KC. Manny Machado must step up as well. Gavin Sheets, remember that name, White Sox fans. He's having a tremendous year for the Padres as a DH slash a part-time outfielder. So if the Padres can boost up their starting pitcher between now and the trade deadline, their offense is there. They just got to boost up their starting pitcher. I think they'll be there because they can challenge the Dodgers. It just so happens that the Dodgers are in their heads because of what happened in last year's playoffs and what's been happening to them so far this season. Only the Padres rather are only 2-5 against the Dodgers in 7 games this season.
Well, also, like I said, so I still think their pitching they need to shore up that because they need to. That's what kind of killed them last year in that series with the Dodgers. There's a playoff series with the Dodgers, so we'll see if they can do that. Now, the Diamondbacks, of course, who the Sox will be playing against starting tonight, they win 2 out of 3 at Coors Field in Colorado. Now, as far as Colorado, their run differential is now 202. So, I mean. Like the White Sox fan, at least you guys are fun bad now. The Rockies are just plain bad. So
that's enough said.
So we'll leave that. Yeah, we'll leave that there. Now going to the AL for a second. Looks like the Yankees are starting to find their groove a little bit, winning 2 out of 3 against Baltimore after losing a tough series against the Angels. Clark Schmidt had 7 good innings with only giving up 1 hit as they rout the Orioles in the rubber match of that series. Chisholm started off there. Actually, are scoring now. He lit it off in that Saturday game as they rallied from as they taped that series against the Orioles. So they're starting to get going a little bit, which I think if you're a Yankees fan, you'll be feeling a little bit easier right now.
Did you check out that play from yesterday's game? Speaking of Chaz Chisholm, I thought that should have been I'm not gonna say interference, but he ran to I forgot the guy's name, the original starting catcher for Baltimore. So happens that Gary Sanchez, the former Yankees pitcher, had to come in as the backup catcher for Baltimore. But that collision at the play, he was trying to avoid the catcher, but the catcher for the original starting catcher for Baltimore was injured, and Chaz Chisholm kind of had to like kick him to avoid him, and he just couldn't. I thought that play was weird. You had the Buster Posey rule in there from a few years ago to prevent stuff like this. But I thought that was just interesting that Chaz Chisholm was called safe. I thought it should have been called out, but what do I know? But Baltimore had the 2-1 lead. Dean Kramer, I should say, pitched a well of a game yesterday, but Baltimore just couldn't hold it, and the Yankees came through in the 8th inning yesterday, and to get themselves the series win and get back on track.
They got the Rays breathing down our necks as they take 2 out of 3 against Detroit. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know the Rays are for real, but I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Who knows? But like I said, I want to wait until by the trade deadline before I can make any proclamation on this team. They kind of had their hiccups early on. They've been up and down. They actually been playing well for like last month, but again, I'm not there with the Rays just yet. So we'll see what happens there. Toronto, we talked about them. Losing 2 out of 3. They're still right there at 4 back. Now the Red Sox, like I said, 3. They lose their series against the Giants. I think the Yankees, they need to beef up their starting pitching, especially. So we'll see what happens there in that AL East.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. Let's go over to the American League West. We talked about the Seattle Mariners taking 2 out of 3 in Chicago against the Cubs. The Houston Astros take 2 out of 3 against the LA Angels of Anaheim. The Angels now 3 games below 500, even though they're playing better under Ron Washington. The Oakland Athletics of Sacramento, as we call them on the show, they lose 2 out of 3 to Cleveland. And the Texas Rangers take 2 out of 3 on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Still a lot up for grabs in that division. So we'll see. I mean, I know that Houston been playing very well. We'll see how they do against the coming up. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in that division. But yeah, I think that division is still up for grabs now. Detroit, like I said, they lose 2 out of 3 to Tampa, but I'm not worried about them just yet. I mean, they it's sort of like a little bit of a slump for them. So it's fine. Like I said, I'm not too worried about considering the fact that the other teams in their division's not that good. So they could probably afford to have a little bit of a hiccup there. Now the Guardians did win 2 out of 3 in Sacramento against the A's. So maybe they can make a little bit of a dent there, but it's going to be hard for them to catch up. Now the Royals, of course, we talked about the Royals losing 2 out of 3 to the Padres. I mean, this team has so much promise last year. Bobby Witt Jr. is still doing his thing, but it's just like everyone else has been. It just hasn't been a very good showing for the Royals.
As I said before, and I'll say it again, I believe one team is going to come out the AL Central, and I believe they'll be the Detroit Tigers. They'll be your division champions for this season. Now, you mentioned about the other 2 teams, Kansas City, but I want to talk about Cleveland in particular. Yes, they took 2 out of 3 from the Athletics this weekend, but should they not, as you mentioned, that they'll play the Cubs here in Chicago next week prior to the 4th of July weekend. If you're the Cleveland Guardians front office, they don't get on a nice stretch to separate themselves between them and the Twins and the Kansas City Royals. Forget about the White Sox, but they don't separate themselves between those other 2 teams to crawl closer to the Detroit Tigers. Do you think they'll back up the Brinks truck? Because if so, they have a couple players that they'll get high value for, in particular their closer Emmanuel Clase.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing here. I know that Cleveland's trying to hang in there, but if Detroit still puts a little bit more of a distance, if they're up by like maybe 9 or 10 games by the All-Star break, I think that might be something that might be a sign for the front office in Cleveland to say, you know what, maybe we should start start training some of our guys and kind of like our top people. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting what happens to that. But this is that'll be interesting.
Yeah, wrapping up the AL Central, the Brewers, they sweep the Minnesota Twins. The Minnesota Twins are back to 3 games below 500. Let's switch on the other side to the NL Central. We talked about the Cubs earlier, losing 2 out of 3 against the Mariners. The Cincinnati Reds and St. Louis Cardinals did battle on the Show Me State over the weekend. The Cardinals take 2 out of 3 from the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are still barely hanging on, 2 games above 500. While the Pirates lose 2 out of 3 to the Texas Rangers, as I mentioned earlier. LaKeena, St. Louis, we talked about earlier. I think this is an important series for them against Chicago coming up. Milwaukee, they got themselves back on track, as I mentioned, with the sweep against Minnesota on the road. Do you start to take Milwaukee seriously, or is it just blah? For lack of better term.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I think, like I said, I think it's interesting because, like I said, I know that Christian Yelich has been hitting the ball very well. I know Jacob Mizorowski, he had a good outing on Saturday, but I mean on Friday, I should say. But I'm kind of like I said, I'm always worried about Milwaukee. Let's be real here. But it'll be interesting to see if Milwaukee can keep it up. Like I said, I know they had a little bit of a bump. I know that Minnesota has been playing very well lately, but I'm interested to see what they do here. I know they play the Pirates starting tonight, but it's gonna be interesting if like I said, by the All-Star break, if I were the Cubs, I want to put as much distance between Milwaukee and everybody in that division as I can. Well, I'm leaving Pittsburgh out of it, but the rest of the teams in the NL Central, so that I can be a little bit easier going to the trade deadline. Maybe you make a little bit of changes in that pitching staff.
Before we close this segment out with the schedule for this upcoming week, did you catch the highlight of yesterday's Twins Brewers game?
Mm-hmm. I did.
The first inning home run by Byron Buxton. It was caught by a fan who reached out one hand and one arm, and he made the catch. Did not drop the ball. Trevor Palouse, former Twins player, by the way, now in the broadcast booth next to Corey Provers on that TV station. Their team reporter, who's from Chicago, by the way, Miss Audra Martin, came up with a beer in her hand, and she gave the fan the beer because Trevor Palouse said after that Buxton home run, which the fan called, I would buy that guy a beer. Miss Audra Martin, the Twins team reporter, had the beer in her hand, gave the fan the beer, and the fan was happy.
Yes.
I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I think he was happier with the beer than catching that ball from Buxton.
Right.
So yeah, I think he was more happy with the beer. But nice call there. Nice job by Palouse giving buying that guy a beer. He definitely earned it, and plus it was hot.
Yes.
So yeah, you want to keep limited alcohol consumption to a minimum. So that was a nice.
Be responsible, folks.
Yes, drink responsibly and keep cool. So, and don't drink too much because, like I said, it's hot. As hot as it is, alcohol you kind of want to stay away from now as we go into the schedule. For this week, you got Texas and Baltimore, Atlanta and the Mets, the Yankees and Cincinnati. You got Arizona and the White Sox, Pittsburgh and Milwaukee. The first game of the Seattle-Minnesota series will be on FS1. The Cubs and the Cardinals, important series for both teams. You got the Angels hosting Boston as they continue their West Coast trip. Boston, that'll be on the first game will be on MLB Network, and Washington and San Diego. That's how it's that caps off tonight's matchups.
Other series that will be starting tomorrow: the Oakland Athletics of Sacramento, as we call them on this show. They'll hit the road on the East Coast. They'll take on the Detroit Tigers. Toronto will visit Cleveland. The New York Yankees will visit Cincinnati to take on the Reds. Pittsburgh will face Milwaukee. Tampa Bay will play Kansas City. The Philadelphia Phillies will travel to Houston to take on the Astros, or Sean Sierra will call them the Trash Stros. The Los Angeles Dodgers will take on the Colorado Rockies. Strange things always happen when those two teams play at Coors Field. And the Miami Marlins will face the San Francisco Giants on the left coast as the Marlins will hit the road. Now, your national TV schedule for the next couple of days looks like this. Your Tuesday night TBS game will feature the Atlanta Braves versus the New York Mets. Remember that watching those games back in the late 90s and early 2000s on TBS was an Atlanta Braves broadcast back in the day, but what do I know? And your nightcap on MLB Network for tomorrow will have the Washington Nationals facing off against the San Diego Padres. Your Wednesday schedule looks like this. Pittsburgh and Milwaukee in the afternoon on MLB Network, followed by the New York Yankees and Cincinnati Reds in prime time. And for those of you in New York, that Wednesday night broadcast can also be seen on Prime Video. There'll be a New York Yankees broadcast.
All right, that's your schedule for this week in MLB.
Hour number 1 is in the dust. Hour number 2 will kick off following these messages. We have to review Game 7 of the NBA Finals between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. The NBA will look different next year for 2025-2026. We'll tell you about that. What will the Bulls do with that number 12 pick? If you're a Bulls fan, do you even care? And we'll give our grades for the Kevin Durant trade from the Phoenix Suns to the Houston Rockets. That and a whole lot more as you listen to Second City Sports, the Monday Extravaganza, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best. I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few the proud, the Marines.
Every body in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday extravaganza. This year, locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
As we talk hoops for this half hour, kick it off hour number 2. You have any questions or comments for us regarding last night's Game 7? Or the Bulls' upcoming draft pick this Wednesday, or the Kevin Durant trade, a whole lot more. You can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get that up on the screen for you.
All right, let's talk about Game 7 of the NBA Finals. As it was, unfortunately, Tyrese Halliburton injured his Achilles. He tore his Achilles. That was the official word that came out. Sharm Sharma from ESPN tweeted that out about an hour ago. 103-91, the Thunder gets their first championship since they were in Seattle all the way back in 1979. Jalen Williams had 20 points. SGA had 29. He ends up winning MVP honors for that. And he's actually is the first NBA player to win the scoring title, regular season MVP, finals MVP, and multiple Game 7s all in one season. So, look, you're happy for him and such. Hardenstein had 7 points, but he had a couple of big assists there. Of course, Chet Holmgren saved his best games for last. 5-8 from the field. Cason Wallace and Alex Caruso. This is his second title. Remember, he was a big part of that bubble title, as people call it, with LeBron and AD over in with the Lakers. As far as the Pacers are concerned, and of course, Newhart had 15 points. Siakam had 16. Benjamin McDermott had 24 off the bench. McConnell had 16. He scored 8 in the third quarter, trying to keep the Pacers in it. Thank you to him for the newest meme. If you go through Bleacher Report's Twitter X, you'll see why in a second here. But unfortunately, Obi Toppin picked the worst time to have his worst game of the season. He was 0 for the field, 0 from 3-point range. That didn't help matters. I know some people will say, "Oh, is this has an asterisk because Halliburton got hurt?" Look, Halliburton wasn't 100% to begin with. So as I was talking with our buddy Dave Kerner. Of course, we just had him on a couple of weeks back. Former sports anchor for WBBM News Radio 780. He said that he agrees with me that there's got to be something to do here. Of course, first it's Dame. Then it's Tatum. Now it's Halliburton. There's something going on here. But let's talk about the game first, and we'll talk about the other stuff afterwards. But Sid, what do you think about Game 7 last night?
It was a bummer after Tyrese Halliburton went down, and I had this thought in my mind. Remember Kevin Durant? I believe it was Game 5 in Toronto in the 2019 NBA Finals between the Raptors and the Warriors. Remember, Durant injured his calf early in that playoff. In their playoff run, I believe it was against the Rockets in that first round when it was with the Warriors. That was the same thought that popped in my head last night. And of course, your heart goes out to Halliburton. Of course, the scariest thing about any athlete, they will tell you the scariest thing about playing is being injured, because you have to spend all that time rehabbing. You got to go through things not just physically but psychologically as well. And Tyrese is going to go through it along the other two players that you mentioned that suffered their Achilles injuries during the playoffs this year. But after that, someone in the group text, I think it was our guy Tony Gill, said that Oklahoma City had just wrapped up the championship. And obviously, he was correct. But give the Pacers credit; they hung in there tough, despite having 7 turnovers in that third quarter. They actually had the lead at halftime, but that third quarter was what did them in. You could tell they were nervous after Halliburton went out with his injury. They started to turn the ball over, just carelessly not taking care of the basketball. Oklahoma City, as we said, they're the top defensive efficiency team, rated team in the NBA all year long. They showed that again last night when they needed it most. The end of that third quarter, starting the fourth quarter, was what separated the two. And congrats to OKC for winning the title.
Yeah, I mean, look, it'll be interesting to see. They actually joined another list. They actually are the fourth team to to have like the most up there with some of the most wins by a championship with 83. They joined the 96, both the Bulls from 96, 97 that won 87 and 84, and also to the 50-60 Warriors that won 88. That's the most games won by regular season and playoffs. Unfortunately, they lost to LeBron and Kyrie and the Cavs that year, losing after blowing a 3-1 deficit there. But yeah, I mean, I know they're the second youngest team, NBA team to win the NBA Finals. And I'm already hearing people say, "Could this be a sort of a dynasty?" Blah blah blah. Well, the last 7 winners have not had a repeat. So I think this kind of say that this could be a sort of dynasty, maybe. But again, it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of keep it up because look, you still got a lot of young guys and whatnot. So, of course, the youngest team to win was a 76-77 players, of course, led by the late, great Bill Walton for that team. But again, I mean, to say, I know people, I doubt folks will say that Trailblazers team from the mid-late 70s, they thought that was going to be a dynasty. That didn't help. So, to say it, just kind of say that's a little bit disconcerting, but I don't know. What do you think?
With the new CBA that the NBA is under right now, it prevents teams like Oklahoma City and Golden State to have dynasties because of restrictions of the salary cap and things along that line. But what GM Sam Presti will have to do is, I don't know what the contract status of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. I'm assuming he's locked up for the foreseeable future. You could check up on that. But, those players going to have to get paid eventually. I'm just putting SGA aside for a minute. Chet Holmgren, who was great defensively last night. And remember, he missed almost the first half of the year this year. I believe he missed 50 games, but came back and it was strong as the season got along. He was very important, especially in the last 2 series for the OKC Thunder against Minnesota in the Western Final, and of course, last night to close out Game 7 against the Pacers. He's going to get paid once his rookie deal is up. Jalen Williams, I don't know what his contract situation is, but he's looking forward to get paid. You still have 2 years left on that Isaiah Hartenstein deal. Yes, they overpaid him to get him away from the Knicks, but you still have to give him big money. And there's some of the other role players that they want playing time. If they're not going to get it in OKC, they got to go for somewhere else. So I know GM Sam Presti has done a tremendous job. He's finally rewarded with a championship, but he's going to have some tough decisions to make over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I remember. I find it ironic that Harden, KD, we'll get to in a second, and Westbrook, they couldn't get it done with the Thunder, even though they had their chance. I felt like they should have stayed together and gotten another chance to do it. But again, I digress. Now you got this young squad here. Again, we'll see Mark D, as we call him here on the show. It'll be interesting if you saw his demeanor, very stoic, very, I know they tried to and I saw Will's trying to get him a little excited a little bit, but, it's kind of crazy how that works out. Now, he's not the youngest coach. Remember, Joe Mazzulla did it last year. He's only 35. He just, Coach D just turned 40 last November. So,
oh, man, I'm 40.
yep, he actually could say that now if he wants to. Now, incidentally, Williams and SGA now join a list of players that won championships. The best duo to get the most points. They joined LeBron and Kyrie, who did it in 2016, and they joined MJ and Scotty, who did it all the way back in 1993. 377 for Williams and SGA. So it's gonna be interesting to see, like I said, if they can. I mean, look, there's gonna be a lot of teams gonna be, and look, it's hard to repeat in the NBA too. The NBA is no exception. So injuries, they were able to avoid a lot of the serious injuries. Talk about the Thunder had. So they may not be as fortunate next season. So that's why I always hear people say, oh, they might repeat. This might be a sort of a dynasty. Slow it down, folks. Slow it down.
And I know that Sam Presti has those draft picks in his back pocket, just like Danny Ainge did back in the day with Boston. And obviously, he did a great job with that. Boston was finally rewarded with the draft pick. Sorry, with the championship last year. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. See LaKeena here with it before we get to the notes and nuggets from the NBA. LaKeena, did you check out those golden shoes that Shea Gilgeous
Yes.
Alexander was wearing around his neck last night?
Yes.
Even before he received the Bill Russell NBA Finals MVP award, he was surrounded by his beautiful son, his beautiful wife, and the rest of their both their families. But if SGA decided to put those shoes up on eBay, he would get millions and millions for them.
Yeah. I think he would. I saw his wife put those shoes around him after they had clinched it, and it was actually pretty cool. If you saw the photos of him and with his wife and son, and he was the son was running around like what the give it go this way, go that way. But yeah, those are cute. And if you saw Isaiah Harden's signs, he was like sleeping. He was just like chilling, like okay, yeah, wake me up when it's breakfast. But yeah, I'm surprised he was able to sleep through all that because it was pretty loud there at OKC. But yeah, but I mean, look, you're happy for all those guys. Like I said, we'll see if it is kind of a start of something. I want to see what the ratings are for this one. I know after Halliburton got hurt, we'll talk about Indiana in a second. But after Halliburton got hurt, and I know we'll see it kind of dampen it a little bit. But the Pacers had their chances. They beat the Thunder with Halliburton was out. So to say that they would have won, no, because Halliburton was not 100%. And I will say this with our buddy, like I said, we're talking to our buddy Dave Kerner. And the thing here with the is the regimen, is it the workouts, is it the training staff? Something's got to give. I know Etan Thomas, of course, was a former NBA, former a 12-time, I think a 12-year NBA veteran, and I know he has his own podcast now. And he said that the Pacers training staff failed Halliburton because he should not have played. What do you think?
He's right about that because remember the team doctors work for the team, and we talked about this situation with Kawhi Leonard many years ago when he was traded from San Antonio to Toronto for their 1 year. And remember, Kawhi didn't trust what the Spurs doctors had to say, and they got upset and talking about the Spurs did. And so Kawhi took care of himself. Obviously, he was rewarded with the championship in 2019 with Toronto, but we got traded again to the Clippers. So Etan Thomas is right. Hopefully, we can get him on the show down the road so he get to discuss that because players know their bodies, and wherever the team doctor says, you cannot always trust it. So as I mentioned, we have a couple examples. Derrick Rose here in Chicago, anyone? I'm just saying. But of course, the biggest example was Kawhi Leonard from 6-7 years ago. But you don't want to blame the players always. Sometimes you have to, it depends on the situation, you may have to put the blame on the player a little because sometimes you have to protect themselves from themselves. But I agree with Etan Thomas here. You have to protect your best assets. I get it. It's a game 7. There's no tomorrow. But if you know that, just like with Kevin Durant with the Warriors, as I mentioned that situation earlier, you know that they shouldn't be playing. They shouldn't play, but the stars rule everything in the NBA, and this is unfortunately what happens. I'm not saying Tyrese Halliburton deserved what happened to him last night. I'm not saying that at all. But the team should really look at themselves and take a look at themselves in the mirror.
Yeah, with a calf injury is always tricky because it could lead to something even worse, whether it's the knee or in Halliburton's case, it's the Achilles. So you wonder, like, are these training staff not properly trained like they should be, or is it like I said, I'm sure it'll come out down the line. I know that Coach Carlisle didn't want to get into that after the game, but like I said, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm sure once all stuff come out now. Hockey's different because we know that. Look, we saw that Matt Tkachuk after when the Panthers won last year. I mean, we found out that his whole shoulder was basically messed up, his whole right shoulder. So we've seen where things happen, and I get it, but sometimes you gotta like pick your battles when it comes to injuries. So it's just unfortunate.
And remember, former Pro Hockey Hall of Famer and former Blackhawk great Chris Chelios back in the 90s. He played a whole playoff run with a broken toe. So, and like you said, you had to choose your battles. You got to have a threshold for high tolerance for pain. Some people have it, some people don't, but that's just the way it goes. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. See LaKeena here with you, talking NBA Finals. We'll get to the Bulls in just a second. We'll get to the Kevin Durant trade here coming up shortly. But I wanted to ask you, LaKeena, give us your grade and why on the whole NBA Finals broadcast? What grade would you give them and why?
A D. Because I didn't watch the pre and post stuff because it was just like it was guys yelling at each other. I felt bad for Bob Myers. He was just sitting there having Stephen A. kind of like screaming, and also Kendra Purvis screaming at each other. Like I don't want to say that Malika Andrews has no control over that table, but it's like I can't wait for the NBA, the inside the NBA guys to come in. But if you ask Barkley and Shaq, they have no clue what's going to happen with that broadcast either. So they're kind of like in the dark too. So yeah, I'd give it like a D because like I said, I didn't watch any of it. I saw the clips on everyone else and other places. It was just awful.
I would give them this a C only because of Mike Breen and Doris Bergen and Richard Jefferson. I don't know if those three will be your number one team going forward. I know they added Richard Jefferson late after the All-Star break, but maybe it's just me, LaKeena, and I have great respect for Doris Burke, but maybe it's just me, and it's okay if you disagree with me, and it's okay. Don't maybe it's just me, but I think she's being set up for failure. I know she did silent work for a long time. She was great at that, and she earned her seat at the table, as the kids would say. But it's kind of I get that gut feeling that she was set up to fail from the start, and I don't like it. I don't know where that's coming from. This is not me throwing something against the wall to see if it sticks, but it's kind of, in my point of view, that she's set up to fail.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because you saw how emotional she got afterwards, and I thought, well, wait a minute. But then I thought, oh yeah, she might be out, and because I know I've heard Tim Legger's name, perhaps maybe being a part of that broadcast. Well, the entire broadcast needs to be changed, but that's a different discussion for a different time. But yeah, like you said, I mean, she's earned her way there. I don't understand why all the hate, but it is what it is, unfortunately. But yeah, you can kind of tell that this was, I don't want to say she was like dead woman walking, if you will, but you can kind of tell that, yeah, I think she probably already knows what's going to happen. This is not going to be officially, until probably, perhaps maybe over the summer or going into the fall. But yeah, she sounded like somebody that knows that what's going to happen to her, but we'll see.
And I would give, like I said, give that broadcast, the whole broadcast to C because of Mike Breen and Doris Burke. But I'm with you, LaKeena. I did not watch the pregame show or the postgame shows in any of these games. I made it a point not to watch it last night. And I think I told you this last week if it was on air or off the air. But I know Stephen A. Smith is the face of that network of ESPN, but I don't need to see First Take everywhere he pops up.
No,
sorry,
no,
I don't.
No.
And Perkins going back and forth. You're not Barkley and Shaq. No, stop.
Yeah, I hope he is nowhere near the inside the NBA, whatever they do with it, for them. But yeah, I think, I didn't need that at all. Like I said, I felt bad for Bob Myers because he used to be like the one saving grace of that whole thing because he's actually comes from experience. He has multiple championships with the Warriors, so he is very nuanced. So yeah, I don't need to see Stephen A. Smith everywhere. I don't, please.
Hopefully, he's not on the NFL coverage this fall. I know there's been talks about that.
Oh, God, yeah, I know. I saw that.
NFL fans will come after him in ESPN if that happens.
Yeah, and also Richard Jefferson, I think, has been a big surprise. I mean, I saw him. Of course, I remember him playing in Arizona, had a national championship. Of course, he had an NBA championship with Cleveland, ironically, with LeBron and Kyrie. But like I said, he's been a good surprise. Like I said, I hope he stays. If they are going to change up, maybe have Breen and Jefferson and perhaps maybe Legler, I guess, perhaps. Because I think they're going to want, especially with the new TV deal about to start next season, they're going to want to kind of like have a team that's going to sell to the masses. And so, like I said, I've been a fan of Doris Burke. I remember her when she called women's basketball games years ago when she first started doing television. And yeah, she's great, but unfortunately, you're going to be people out there that are not going to want a woman calling NBA games. So it's unfortunate that that's the case, but yeah, this is kind of like where we are right now. And I think they're going to want to, especially with this new, like I said, the new TV deal, like I said, they're going to want something they're going to sell to the masses. So we'll see.
As we talked about here before on the show, we'll reiterate here just in the short version. Amazon's coming at it next year with an Iron Eagle and Stan Van Gundy, Cassidy Hubbard, Chicago's very own, by the way. She's the top she'll be the top courtside reporter for the NBA coverage on Amazon. I believe Steve Nash is, if not on NBC, I think he's on Amazon. I know that Blake
Prime
Griffin
is,
and
yeah.
Dirk Nowitzki is going to be on Amazon in the studio, and I think Taylor Rooks. We'll get to her in just a second, but she's going to be a part of it as well on Amazon. Of course, look at the roster you have over at NBC. Michael Jordan, we don't know what he's going to do. We kind of know what he's going to do, but he's not going to be sitting in the studio. But you have Carmelo Anthony. You have Reggie Miller teaming up with Mike Breen as the #1 broadcast. You have Jamal Crawford over there now. You have Noah Eagle, Ian's son, over there. So the ESPN is going to have to boost up their top people if they want people to watch their games. Yes, they're still going to be the home of the playoffs and mostly home of the finals, but they're going to broadcast slightly less games with this new contract, as you said, starting next season in the fall.
Well, don't forget Vince Carter is also going to be a part of the NBA NBC studio show too. So definitely up there. So yeah, you got to think. I'm sure ESPN is probably already thinking that they may have to make some changes if they want to be in a top notch because Amazon's, like you said, Amazon's coming out swinging. NBC's going to do just that, bringing all the nostalgia. That's a different conversation, like I said. But there's going to be a lot of changes over ESPN slash ABC's NBA coverage next year. I really feel that.
You can't just lean on the inside the NBA crew. No, the other parts they're gonna have to be changed in my opinion.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Now let's talk about the rest of the stuff that's going on in the NBA. Sid, the trade was made right before. I know some people were pissed because this was announced the morning of yesterday morning, but you gotta love the NBA for that kind of thing. But now, KD, Kevin Durant has been traded to Houston after all the various rumors being floated around there, San Antonio, Miami, I guess. I guess
we thought Minnesota. That didn't happen.
Whatever. But whatever. But I know. Well, the Heat fans are pissed because I guess Pat Riley couldn't find. Well, I guess there's some players that the Rockets wanted. That the Phoenix wanted, but they didn't get them. They trade KD on top of the Suns to Houston for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, a number 10 pick in this coming week's draft, and 5 second-round picks. What do you think? I mean, I think this is a good trade. I think he definitely brings more experience, more nuance to help out guys like Seguin and Thompson and Fred VanVleet. Will it be enough though to challenge OKC in the West and other teams? That's a different story.
Yeah, that's why if you're the Houston Rockets, what other moves they have up their sleeve? Because the roster that they have right now, I think they can win a playoff series or two, barring any major injuries from some of the other top teams. But you got to get another star, another complimentary player to go with Kevin Durant. Yes, you lost Jalen Green to the Phoenix Suns. You had to get something good. You had to trade for something good. So you mentioned that's still a nice young core with Houston now with Kevin Durant. Was he the player that he once was prior to the ACL injury we talked about earlier? No, but he's still a very good player. You need to add another star. Where is it going to come from? I don't know. But I think Houston needs one more second banana to go with Kevin Durant and, like I said, Alfred Shagun. And I believe there'll be a challengers in the West come next season.
Yeah, he turns 37. Katie does, but it's by the time the season starts. So you got to wonder, are they going to be doing the whole? Is he doing the whole load management thing, if you will? So yeah, I think
probably because he's injury prone at this point in his career.
Exactly. So Houston's going to be a team to watch out for, especially if they turn a couple of those second round picks into something. We'll see. Especially with the draft coming up later this week. So I'm intrigued by this. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Is what the other teams who lost out, like your Minnesotas and your Houston, see what else they got up their sleeve.
Yeah, you mentioned about Miami too. Now, before we bring it home here to Chicago and with the Bulls situation, as we mentioned, the NBA is going to look very different next year. Of course, Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard, and now add Tyrese Halliburton's name to the list. All three of those players will not play next year due to their torn Achilles injuries. I was thinking about this last night, LaKeena, after Halliburton went down, but it's more imperative that the Knicks got to get this head coaching candidate situation correct, because on paper next year, the Knicks will be the favorite and everybody else will have to play for second fiddle, because look at Milwaukee, as I mentioned, no Dame Dollar for next year. Indiana, I think they're still going to be good, but missing Tyrese Burton for the whole year, Halliburton for the whole year, is going to hurt. Okay,
Yeah.
I know some people out there say, well, Sid, you forget about Cleveland. Assuming Cleveland's going to be healthy next year, okay, I'll give you Cleveland. But it's going to be the Knicks, maybe the Cavs, but after that, it's going to be everybody else. Milwaukee's going to look different next year. Philadelphia, I don't think Joel Embiid is going to start the year healthy. He's going to be on the injured list. I'm with you. I'm done with Philadelphia. And then it's going to be everybody else. And I'll bring it home here to Chicago with the Bulls. And we talked about this also too with Mike Berman of NBC5 Chicago on our last episode last Friday. With AK and Mark Eversley getting their extensions, there's no excuse for them to not make moves. I know currently they don't have the capital to go get those big stars, but this is what it looks like when you stuck in NBA hell.
And well, the whole thing is that, like I said, the Knicks, the Olympics, and we'll see what happens. We'll see who they finally get as their coach. That's going to be the wild card here. Detroit, I think we'll see how they look next year. They may have some moves up their sleeve too. They know they're on the come up. Milwaukee, with Dame being out, I mean, and Giannis wants out. I don't know what else you can do there. Cleveland, I know injuries was a big problem for them. Orlando, I don't think so. Atlanta,
they should trade for Desmond Bain, and they gave up all those picks.
Yeah, so you got to think they're waving a white flag. You got to wonder if Trae Young's gonna want to get out of there. So like I said, I don't know. Like I said, Boston, like I said, no Tatum, so we'll see how they look. Brooklyn,
they're rebuilding.
Yeah, Toronto, they're still rebuilding. Who knows where they'll be next year. It's one of those things where, look, you want to, okay, let's talk about a little bit about the draft for a second. Of course, the draft's on Wednesday. I've seen some of the mock drafts, and they may draft, they're at 12, talking about the Bulls. They may draft Derek Queen out of Maryland. They may, or even Asa Newell, I've seen his name being floated around from Georgia. I mean, they're solid players. I mean, they're decent. I mean, Queen had the only buzzer beater that we saw from last tournament. So yeah. I mean, it's gonna be interesting what the Bulls do here, if they do anything. But
I know some people were talking. Yeah, I know some people were talking about. Well, AK Mark Eversley should make a move to go get Ace Bailey. Okay, but what do you have outside of Matas and Kobe White? You have nothing. The league is telling you what your players are really worth. Outside of those two, you really have nothing. I know some fool out there is, well, you have Patrick Williams. We've seen what Patrick Williams has been these last few years. He's barely a double guy if he's motivated, if he's healthy.
If he feels like it, yeah. So,
right. Outside of that, you have nothing.
Yeah, it's kind of good. It's funny that there are people out there that think that I love the fact that everyone's playing with their trade machines. It's hilarious. But like I said, Ace Bailey out of Rutgers, like I said, he was all second team All Big Ten. So but again, he's already expected to go number 2 after Flag, go to Philly. So what are you gonna do? You have nothing to give them. So what the hell? Like, are you freaking kidding me here? So,
as I said the last couple of years, I know you agree with me. The Bulls need draft picks. I'm talking about first round draft picks, and right now they just don't have it. You got the pick back after you did the Zach and DeMar trade to the Sacramento Kings. Okay, you got a pick that no one wants in this year's draft because the talent, like you said, you have really good talented players, but in terms of impact players, the star-driven impact players, this year's was not the draft for, so you got to pay for a draft that no one's really looking forward to. So I don't get it. We'll see what happens, what they do on Wednesday, but LaKeena, I hope they make this a priority too. And this guy says that he doesn't want to be here because he wants a ring to end his career. Nikolai Vucevic, he's going to be helpful to a whole lot of teams. Hopefully they're shopping him right now. I like him personally. You remember I was one of those first people that was excited a few years ago where this administration, that was their first big move in getting him. He was still in his prime, it was in the middle going to the end of his prime. He was still a very good player. But right now, Vucevic, he doesn't belong on this team. He belongs on a team like Philadelphia, New York, a team that needs that type of player to put them over the top. And could you get a first-round pick for him? I doubt it. But here's the thing that another thing that frustrates me about this current Bulls administration. Remember the trade around this time last year, the Josh Giddey, Alex Caruso trade. That same trade was on the table last year for the pick. They didn't do it, but you did the trade over the summer, and you didn't receive a pick from Sam Presti.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, that was kind of dumb that they didn't at least get something, get a couple of draft picks. That way, you probably could have had something in your back pocket to play with. But who knows? But yeah, incidentally though, remember there was another trade though involving SGA and Paul George. Remember that trade a few years ago, back in 19, when his rookie season. I was talking about SGA. I mean, look what happened. The Clippers are still trying to find Steve Ballmer's still trying to find something, but now SGA has a championship, so go figure.
Yep. You listen to Second City Sports on Chicago City. LaKeena cooling out here with you as we experiencing a heat wave across the country, not just here in Chicago. We'll have our sports potpourri segment to cool you off. We'll get into some sports media news. We'll get into all the other stuff that we didn't mention throughout the show. In time permitting, we'll have underrated TV show from I would say at least 20 years ago for Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more. You stick and stay right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
911, operator 901. Where's the emergency?
127 Brynmere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushrooms.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency line.
Do you know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Okay, is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
When I'm flying, I put my helmet on, my visor down, my mask up. You don't know who I am. Whether I'm African American, Asian American, Hispanic, white, male or female. You just know I'm an American Airman, kicking your butt. I'm General C.Q. Brown Jr. Come join us.
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Monday extravaganza edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my kid again on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment. We're going to talk about wherever you want. Any other topics that we just discussed so thus far on today's program. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. LaKeena, can I make a request?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I like to pull a Tom Joyner. We usually don't do shout outs on the show, but I like to pull a Tom Joyner card. Can I?
Good.
Yeah. First of all, shout out to hopefully we get him on the show on down the road. But shout out to Drew Stevens of It's the Bigs Media. He was on WGN Sports, GN Sports Tonight on WGN here in Chicago last night with both our good friends of the show, Miss Caitlin Sharkey and Chris Bowden, telling his story about how he broke the news of AK and Mark Eversley getting secret extensions, and he broke down the Bulls' impact not only on this season but for the future. So shout out to him. It was nice seeing him on television last night. And shout out to, speaking of WGN, shout out to former WGN TV producer Larry Harley. I saw him at the Cubs game last Saturday afternoon. He's doing well, of course, friend of the show here on Sega City Sports, and he gave me my TV exposure when CL TV existed back in the day. So with sports feeds. So of course he's a big Cubs fan. He's doing well. So we're gonna definitely have him back on the show. Hopefully when we get closer to football season. So shout out to those two gentlemen. I just want to give them their props right here on the show.
Yeah, Drew. I think we said that he was the one that from the Bigs. I think he's the only one that we have not had on from the Bigs, so we got to try to get him on. But yeah, he broke the news about AK and Eversley getting their serious sentences. He actually, like you said, he actually broke down. He sounded great last night with their buddies CB and Caitlin and on GN Sports. You can go back to it on YouTube if you guys didn't watch it or missed it last night. But really good insight. It's good discussion on his part. So yeah, we'll see what the Bulls do on Wednesday night. Because
I know this for sure. Looking at, they will not trade up or they will not trade down.
Yeah. So everybody that was hoping to use their trade machines, it's not happening. So Cooper Fly's going number 1 to Dallas, and that's about all we know so far. So I guess you can watch coverage of the draft on a Wednesday on ABC and ESPN, and also Thursday of this week, also on ESPN at 7:00.
They're trying to make it like the NFL draft, and
I know, try to stretch it.
At least for this year, no one cares because you don't have to start impact like you had in years past. No. Oh, but speaking of the NBA draft, real quick, I was watching our buddy Luke Canellis last night on Chicago Sports Tonight on Fox 32. He said that Ron Harper, the 5-time world champion, 3 rings with the Bulls, 2 with the Lakers. He said that Ron Harper is going to have a special surprise wardrobe showcase on Wednesday. I was like, okay. We'll see what happens because his son, Dylan Harper from Rutgers, he's supposed to get selected within the first 10 picks of the NBA draft. So I know his son Junior. I think last time I checked, he was still in the minor league system with the Toronto Raptors. That was a couple years ago. But his youngest son, Dylan Harper, he's expected to go within the first 10, 15 picks of this year's draft coming up on Wednesday. So good luck to Mr. Dylan Harper.
Well, yeah. Like I said, I think he's a much better player than Ron Jr. Like I said, Ron Jr. should have stayed in college for another year. But again, that's just I'm sure he probably regrets it now with the NILs. But yeah, so we'll just see what happens here. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that's about all. Yeah, I guess it's something to and for to see what Dad wears because
because the first thing that popped up on my head when Luke Canella said that. Remember back in the 1994 draft. Jalen Rose in that red suit with that red pimp hat.
Oh God! He said he still has that suit too. He said he still has that in the back of his closet. So I don't know if he can still fit it.
And of course, Joakim Noah in the 07 draft when he was selected by the Bulls. That was a very creative suit as well. But Jalen Rose takes the cake from 1994.
Oh boy! Oh gosh! Like I said, well, it's something to tune in for in the draft. So, so there you go there. But some sports media news. So sports news that just came across the wires here. This is according to Richard Deitch, of course, formerly of Sports Illustrated, now with The Athletic. Maria Taylor will be NBC's lead NBA and WNBA studio host next season as pro basketball returns to the network. So, of course, that news was made official earlier. We talked about them. I guess this is their Maria Taylor's done a great job hosting. She has a great job with All Night in America on NBC during the whole season. So I'm not surprised that they made this move. But yeah, so I'm sure ABC is going all out with their NBA coverage.
Yeah, as we said before, first of all, Maria Taylor is going to do a great job. She, like you said, what she does with the college football and, of course, with the Sunday night football, she'll do a great job here. But with NBC Sports, we talked about with the CHSS situation here in Chicago. With NBC, even though I believe they still have 2 or 3 sports regional networks left, that's in Philadelphia, that's on the West Coast, in Oakland / Sacramento, and in Boston, NBC Sports Boston, they cover the Celtics. After those 3, they really don't have anything else left in terms of money. They're putting all their resources into the Olympics, both winter and summer. You had the NFL. Now with the NBA back, they're putting a lot of resources into that as well. So, as you mentioned, they're going all out, and I think it's going to pay huge dividends down the road.
Yeah, remember too with the Olympics coming up as well, over in Italy, the World Olympics coming up next, this coming winter. So, ABC is gonna be very busy with their sports coverage. So,
and they got a Super Bowl for this upcoming NFL season as well.
Yep.
And of course, in 2028, the Summer Olympics. In San Francisco. Yep. And of course, in 2.5 years, 3 years, I think 3 years exactly. The Summer Olympics will return to America, as they'll be in Los Angeles. You could, especially with events starting out early on the West Coast, all those events that Americans will headline in, they'll be shown live in the living color in prime time, especially.
Yep.
From the gymnastics to the basketball to whatever track and field, all those will be shown live in well, hockey's the Winter Olympics, but with the basketball, with the gymnastics, and don't forget about beach volleyball too. All those that involve Americans, they'll be shown live in prime time.
Yeah, so this is definitely a Christmas morning for NBC with their sports in the next few years. So yeah, it's going to be a lot going on over there. So should be interesting to see what happens in the coming months ahead. Also, CBS go to cross to CBS. The brand new Pac-12. Well, there's only 8 teams right now, but I digress. But CBS announced this morning that they in the Pac-12 have announced an extension of their partnership, which is set to begin during this coming football season. It will continue through league transformation, beginning with the new launch of next season and carry on through the 30-31 season. That means that it will be your home of both football and men's college basketball. With a minimum, they'll have the annual tournament championship, also the football conference championship on the CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus. At least 3 men's basketball games on CBS and Paramount Plus each season, and as well as as regular games, of course, throughout the season on CBS Sports Network. Of course, for those who wonder, the new Pac-12 consists of Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Gonzaga, Oregon State, San Diego State, Utah State, and Washington State. So a little bit of mixture of the old Mountain West, a little Pac-12, of course, Gonzaga from the West Coast Conference. So that conference is going to be wide open once they go to the Pac-12, if you will, Pac-8. I guess the old Pac-8 before the Arizona teams joined back in the late 60s, early 70s. But yeah, interesting move here for CBS.
Yeah, you need a new network. What a way to bring it in. Hopefully those games can be shown at a decent time where folks like you and I can watch it in Central Time Zone and on the East Coast. So I know the Pac-12 is not going to be ever the same again. Like we saw, like you said, the Pac-8 or the Pac-8 back in the day. People forget about that, but hopefully they'll get some reasonable games to be put on at a reasonable time so everybody can watch, not just the folks on the West Coast.
Yeah, but just to see there, Tom Brady can add Fanatics Games champion to his credit. If you guys saw the videos throughout the weekend, of course there was this like Fanatics game. For those who don't know, they've been doing this for like the last, I think, like the early aughts, but it's a collaborative between current and retired players and fans as well with all the games. And we know how competitive Brady is and such other celebrities. They got the one. He was the $1 million prize. He already said he's going to give it to charity. He does like he needs some money, so he's already said he's going to give it to charity. Of course, Joe Burrow was there. Dwight Howard was there. Michael Parsons was begging Brady for a jersey. I guess he's been waiting for like 4 years for a jersey. So hasn't gotten it yet. But yeah, so interesting over the weekend there. But nice over between him and talk about Brady and Eli Manning. So that was actually pretty funny to see over the weekend.
Rivals coming together for a goal cause. You love to see it. I know bringing it back home to here to Chicago, Caleb Williams, the second-year quarterback out of USC, made some news. So he says that he doesn't like the Packers and their fans. And Matt, we didn't talk about this last week, LaKeena, but Matt Eberflus, the former Bears head coach, made some news. I just want to mention this quickly. We know the Cowboys play the Bears here in Chicago in week 3 in September. It should not be a big story by then. It should not be a big story. Now, we didn't get a chance to discuss it, but he said that Caleb Williams will watch film by himself during the most part in last year. Of course, Matt Eberflus made the PC statement. Oh yeah, we watch film together. We try to correct the mistakes and blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, okay. We know that coaching malpractice was seen all over that Bears team last year, but I just took away from it. Yeah, Eberflus is trying to protect himself, but we all know that they know what the hell they were doing last year, and that I'm glad he's out of here as far as being the head coach, and that should be left at that.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I heard about it and I saw the interview. It was just like, okay, all right. I mean, I don't know what more did you want them to expect, but it's going to be interesting to see if. Yeah, I mean, look, that matchup coming up against Dallas. Of course, he's a new OC. I'm talking about Eberflus. He's a new DC now over there and down there in Dallas. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see that matchup. Should be interesting to say the least, but it'll be interesting there. But let me see, is there anything other sports media related? Keegan Bradley, of course, he won the Travelers Championship. He came back from like 5 shots down to beat Tommy Fleetwood. Incidentally, though, he's actually is going to be the captain of the Ryder Cup coming up. They're playing this September over at Bethpage in New York. And it's going to be interesting because he may have to play if he does get named, if he names himself to captain, he might have to relinquish that title because he said he's looking into it, but we'll see. But yeah, nice comment by him. But interesting decision he'll have to make coming up in the summer months.
Yep, very interesting decision they'll have to be made. LaKeena, do you watch? Have you had a chance to watch? I know sometimes it's shown every once in a while. It's shown on the main MLB network, but have you had a chance to watch the MLB Big Inning?
Yeah.
Okay, I know it started right after COVID. And I think they do a great job. I know they have various hosts there, and it's usually a 2.5-hour show. I know it broadcasts nightly, sometimes around 7:30 Chicago time. It'll go to about 10 o'clock. But I usually get a chance to watch it on Sundays, where I'm not down at the Sox Park. They're usually on sometimes at 1 o'clock Chicago time, sometimes 2 o'clock. Go to MLBTV.com and you'll Google it. You'll see the schedule for the upcoming week. I think they do a tremendous job. It's almost like the baseball's versions of NFL Red Zone. I know they can't be on longer because of the protection of the RSNs and things along that line, but they do a great job giving you 2.5 hours of action going through all the games across the country, and it works out for me perfectly because if I don't feel like turning to the game that I'm watching or whatever, or want to turn to a game that's something going on, since I have the package via this computer screen, I could just turn to that game or just leave it on like I do for the NFL throughout the season. Leave it on NFL Red Zone on the big screen and watch the other games on my computer. For baseball, even though you don't have as many games going on like football does, because football is once a week. And I could just sit there and watch it for the entire 2.5-hour airing, and I've been doing that for the last couple of years on the Sundays that I can afford to that I'm at home.
Yeah, and I think that's really I'm glad they have that option for folks because like sometimes especially if you'll get a chance to watch a particular game that you might not be able to because of blackouts, you still have to deal with that. But you do get
which MLB red, by the way.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, I think this is a nice way to kind of like keep baseball fans engaged, especially younger baseball fans. The Rays have actually been pretty good, so I think this might play a little bit of a part. But yeah, I'm hoping they do this a lot more because I think this is definitely going to be the key to keep your fans interested.
Yep. And I know hockey did one last year. I hope they do it more for next season and beyond. The NBA, I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but with the new TV deal, I don't know if that's going to be possible. But I would like to see the NBA do something similar to what MLB Network is doing with the MLB, the beginning. Of course, we all know what Red Sox has done to viewership of football in general. We all know, especially here in Chicago, with the games that are now broadcasted in our area, or you don't want to see the Bears get their ass beat, you just turn on Red Zone, you watch some real football.
Yeah,
for
you
7.5 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So the Red Zone was a godsend for me last year. I'll say that. So, but yeah, yeah. So but yeah, I mean the blackout thing, that's gonna be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I'm kind of, yeah. Like I said, hopefully this will do this more and more, and they do this more often. Now, Quarterback, of course, the which is a show on Netflix that aired last year. Now they're gonna have season 2. It'll feature Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, and Kirk Cousins. Of course, if you guys Netflix, they actually retweeted a screener there. They'll take you behind the scenes of the season. It'll be interesting to see like how far they go with Cousins, because Cousins is still in Atlanta apparently. So we'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, they're gonna take you behind the scenes of last season and such. So yeah, Netflix is yeah. We saw a wide receiver, we saw a running back. Now they're coming back with quarterback. So yeah, like a little anthology type thing, similar to what we saw the last couple of seasons.
And they have that documentary come. I don't think it's out yet, but it'll be out soon about the Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys with those teams in the '90s. But first with Kirk Cousins, how far would they go? Because remember, we didn't know until the end of last year that he was playing with an injury. He came back too soon. Of course, the Falcons were on pace to win that terrible NFC South. They lost it to Tampa Bay. Michael Penix got the job at the end of the year, almost put Atlanta in the playoffs, but they lost to Carolina at home on the last day of the season. We want to see how far they go with that. I'm interested to see what they have on the cutting room for Joe Burrow, because remember, we talked about it last year, LaKeena. If Cincinnati made the playoffs, Joe Burrow would have been in the conversation for MVP. He was putting up tremendous type numbers. Remember the season before, he missed a lot of time due to various that calf injury. But last year he put up some great numbers. It was a shame that Cincinnati missed the playoffs.
Yeah, so that was unfortunate, but they did have that great comeback in those last couple of games. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting, like I said, what they do, like you said, how far they go with some of this stuff. But yeah, like I said, July 8th is when it premieres on Netflix. I'm talking about Quarterback, the second season of that. That's a series. It should be fun, and if you don't have Netflix, that's okay. I'm sure it will be available on YouTube and such. So you'll get a chance to watch it in some form.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, LaKeena hanging out here with you. We still have a few minutes left before we close it out with Old School TV Monday. Any other things, and not just sports, but other documentaries that you're watching that you want the public to take notice of?
Not right now. Like I said, I'm looking forward to a Dallas one coming up. That's gonna be interesting, though. I'm sure we'll see how far they go with that. I'm sure they're gonna. I'm sure since Jerry Jones produced, I'm sure it's gonna be film from his perspective. So we probably won't get to that whole thing with him and Jimmy Johnson, but that'll be interesting there. But yeah, that's about it. Also, I do want to give a shout out though to LSU, the men's baseball team. They win their second title, College World Series title in 3 years, beating Coastal Carolina. It's their 8th overall, so it looks like they're starting to have a little bit of a dynasty there. Jay Jefferson is doing a great job with that program. His 4th year there, they've already won his second College World Series title in 3 years. So congrats to the Tigers.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, did you watch any of the College World Series? And when I heard LSU that won it, I was the first thought that came to my mind was Paul Skeens. I know he's one of the big names that has come out of their program in recent years. You can see what he's doing right now with the Pirates.
Yep. So yeah, I did watch it. Yeah, it was it was all. I hate that the Chanticleers coach and their first base coach got the boot, but that's a whole different conversation. He didn't even say. He just stood there. He was like, "Wait," he didn't even say anything. He just looked at the guy at the up funny. Like, I don't know why that was, but.
And quickly in WNBA news, the Sky lost to the Atlanta Dream last night, dropping their record to now 3-10. LaKeena, the Sky have all that talent, but they still can't find any consistency. And there, I know we have a new head coach, but it's no disrespect to the young man, but it seems like he's lost. What can the Sky do from this point? I know that the Caitlin Clark buzz is buzzing all around, but somehow, some way here in Chicago, you have Angel Reese, you have Carmela Cardoso, you have Haley Van Lith. And I know that Courtney Vandersloo's injury has really taken a toll on this team, so she'll be gone for the year. But they really look clueless. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
No. Like I said, I don't watch, but I've seen clips, and I'm just like, yeah, they look. Look, their dance routines down. They got their dance routines down pat. But yeah, but when you're 3-11, they're 3-11. That's not. No one's gonna care what kind of dance you do. And for what I've read, the ratings for the 3-10, I should say, they face the Sparks, Los Angeles Sparks, coming up tomorrow. If you watch that game on NBA TV at 7, but like I said, I mean, look, you're only as good as people, will watch you here in Chicago, especially. I know that there is an experience, with the television and the radio and stuff like that. But for what I've read, the ratings for the Sky games this year have not been good here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, if you're good, people will stick with you. If you start to suck, they're folks are gonna say bye. That's how it is in Chicago. I know people say that's not fair, but
that's how it is in Chicago. We're the number 3 market in the country.
Mm-hmm. You got the Cubs, you got the White Sox that are doing. Yeah, they're actually are. I'm not saying they're not world beaters, but they're actually are decent. It's fun bet, I should say. You got the Fire. You got other sports here as well, other stuff to do. Yeah, people can find other stuff to do here in Chicago to watch WNBA. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we close out with Old School TV Monday?
No, let's honor this show. This is like you said, this is a very underrated series, I think. So take it away.
All right, and this is one of the reasons why we do Old School TV Monday. For this week, we'll salute the early 2000s TV sitcom from Fox and the old WB network, Grounded for Life. That's right. It was an American television sitcom that debuted on January 10th, 2001 as a mid-season replacement on Fox. Created by Mike Schiff and Bill Martin, it ran for 2 seasons on Fox until being canceled only 2 episodes into its 3rd season. It was immediately picked up for the rest of the 3rd season by the WB, where it aired for 2 more additional seasons until the series ended on January 28, 2005. The show starred Donald Lodge and Megan Price as Sean and Claudia Finnery, an Irish Catholic couple living in Staten Island, New York, with their 3 children. The show also starred Kevin Corrigan, Brett Harrison, and Richard Ryle. It also featured guest stars such as Ashton Kutcher, Danny Masterson, and Mila Kunis, and Will Devon Morano, all of them from the cast of that 70s show. Dave Foley, Kevin McDonald, Scott Thompson, he was from Kids in the Hall, Mike Vogel, Natasha Lyonne from American Pie movie fame, Vincent Pastore, Marion Flynn, Stephen Root, and Elizabeth Barrett, Kevin Corrigan's wife.
Yeah, it was a really solid series. I mean, it was kind of like you had young parents, going through life and lessons and stuff. They kind of learned as their kids were growing up, especially their oldest daughter. There were actually times when Lily, that's who their oldest daughter, their oldest kid, acted more like an adult than the than the parents sometimes, because they had her when they were very young. So that's kind of like the grounded for life concept came from. And it was a funny show. It had its moments. I wish it stayed on longer. I wish it had a bigger audience, because I thought the show was really funny and really well written, and had a great cast. A lot of them were still working the business too. I know Donald's doing a lot of directing and such. I know Megan is doing some stuff with her daughter. I remember she was pregnant with her daughter during the time of the show. And Natasha Lyonne, of course, American Pie. She now, if you guys have Peacock, catch her on Poker Face, one of my favorite shows on Peacock. So make sure to check her out there. But yeah, I thought it was a really solid show. I mean, they did go into some issues, but they kept it funny, they kept it light, and it was, it was actually a decent show.
An interesting nugget about the show: Grounded for Light was nominated for 7 Young Artist Awards, including for Best TV Comedy Choice, Best Family TV Comedy Series, Best Performance by a Guest Star in a TV Comedy Series, and Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy or Drama Series. It had also won a Young Artist Award for Supporting Young Actor in a TV Comedy Series. It was also nominated for an Artios Award, Teen Choice Award, and GLAAD Media and an Emmy Award.
Yep. So yeah, some of the episodes, or what were some of your favorite episodes? I think I've watched like a couple recently, and Yeah, what do you have a couple episodes in mind for some of your favorites?
Oh, I'll be honest with you. I do not have one that sticks out. It's just I'm with you. Kind of what the overall tone of the series. It was just a young couple trying to make it. You said the eldest daughter was the grown up at the time. She was also a rebel at times as well.
Yes.
I think I do remember which popped in my mind. I think it was the first or second season where she showed her tongue ring and the parents were shocked.
Yeah.
I remember that was the one episode that stuck out of my moment.
Yeah,
stuck out of my mind. Like, yeah. Those were very popular back in the late 90s and early 2000s. Those of a certain age would know. I don't have one, never had one, but though that trend, along with the trance stamps, were popular back then. We can get into a whole nother conversation about that. But I remember when she had the tongue ring and both the parents were shouting like, "You ain't supposed to have that. We didn't expect that."
Yeah. So her parents were not pleased with that. I remember that. That was one of the few episodes I actually remember. So if you have Amazon Prime, the shows on there. Also, too, if you have Fubo, Fubo, you get that from there as well. Those are places where it's streaming right now. And I'm sure some of the episodes are also on YouTube as well.
Yeah, so you can find various clips of that show on YouTube as well. One more fun fact about the show: the WB renewed the series for a 22-episode fourth season in April 2003. The network delayed the additional 6-episode order to air within the fourth season, creating a larger 28-episode season. In May 2004, the network renewed the series for a 13-episode fifth season. On October 27th, the network announced that it will not order a full season, effectively canceling the series.
Yeah, pretty tough that it kind of ended that way. But yeah, so it's like I said, you check out some of the episodes are also on YouTube as well. If you want to, that infamous tongue ring episode that aired, I think it was like halfway through after the first season, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so you can catch that. You can, like I said, you can catch it on Fubo TV and also on Amazon Prime if you got subscriptions to those.
All right, so for this week's edition of Old School TV Monday, we salute the early 2000s TV sitcom from Fox and the WB, Grounded for Life. LaKeena, take us home.
You can follow McKinney McGee on the Twitter, X, and here's again on IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago also on social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at Ward Media Podcast. That's WARR Media. PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Me a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports every Monday, live in the living color, every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can get Sports Zone Chicago's content anytime, anywhere on the Facebook and YouTube channels. You can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellows, and so much more. You can catch Sports Zone Chicago's great content, a replay if you miss an interview, a segment, whatever. Just you can catch it right here on the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And you know we will provide.
All right, folks, stay cool and hydrated out there. If you have to go outside, drink plenty of water. Check your pets. Check the elderly if you know someone who's elderly, and check out each other and so much more. Enjoy all the baseball, WNBA, and soccer if you're into MLS and WUSL, and so much more. For Sid, I'm LaKeena with Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Be safe out there, folks. We'll see you guys on Friday.
Go Sox! Holla!